sure she's probably well known to you from her crime books, but she's a woman of many talents. Don't know if you know that. She's done lots of different things, and I'm sure she's going to tell you about some of the different things she's been involved in tonight. I'll hand you over to Denise.
Thanks very much. Thank you. When I do readings, usually I read a bit to the audience and then talk about myself a bit and then get them to ask questions. And usually everyone starts talking, which is the best part of it for me.
When did you first start writing?
My mum says I wrote a book when I was 9, which was the first page of Gone with the Wind with the names changed. It wasn't Scarlett, it was Denise. I always wanted to be a writer, but I thought it was like wanting to be a movie star. I thought everyone in the world wanted to write. I didn't realise that wasn't true. I mean, I think for people who write, it's a compulsion. And I think people who write, you know, you're really compulsively using language and putting language together and retelling stories. And think, you know, that I come from a big family, and I think in Scotland, something Scottish people don't really appreciate is how great we are at telling stories. I wanted to write crime fiction because I thought it was really accessible, and I was doing a PhD in mental illness and female offenders, and I thought I discovered really interesting things, and no one would ever read them because no one reads PhD theses. And I thought if you could take these brilliant ideas and put them in a crime novel, people would read them and it would be entertaining. And the thing is, all writers are readers, really. Yeah. We're really just super greedy readers who read books and got angry with them. I mean, I started writing partly because I was so angry at Patricia Cornwall, because all the women in it were listened to. You know, Kay Scarpetta walks into a room and starts talking and everyone falls quiet. What universe are you living in? You know? Well, I started writing Garnet Hill and I got to page 80 and I got really stuck. I didn't know what I was doing, and I went on a course at the Women's Library in Glasgow, and it was a crime writing course, and that gave me some ideas. But actually I sent off the first 3 chapters pretending I'd written the whole book to agents, and somebody wrote back and said, can I see the rest of it? And that's when I wrote the rest of it in 3 months and sent it in to them, and they said, we're going to get this published. Somebody came up to me and said they read Garnet Hill, which is about someone who's had a history of mental illness, while they were in a locked ward, and it meant the world to them. And because of, she said it was fundamental to her getting better. I'm sure she said that because I was there. And then she went on to travel the world, and everywhere she went she took a copy of the book and she left it wherever she went. And you know, that really meant the world to me, you know, that somebody felt that way about it. I wrote a book called Sanctum, where the central character is a man, and I think he's more like me than anyone else, and people always write and say this character is despicable, which is quite disheartening actually. Quite often I'll steal people's names and give them characters that are very unlike them. For example, my academic supervisor for my PhD was a guy called Professor Neil Hutton, so I made him a gangster called Neil Bananas Hutton, and he was murdered in short time in a book, and he thought that was fantastic. He was very pleased about that. You know, there are parts of writing books that are fantastic, which is getting to the end, scenes that surprise you when you're writing a scene and something happens and it changes the whole book. And the bits that are really disheartening are the slog, or there's always a point in every single book where I think, I don't know what I'm doing, I can't do this. And that's always a nightmare, but you do have the experience of thinking you've done this 9 times, and every single time you've had this moment of despair where you didn't know what was happening, and really didn't think you could do it and didn't think you could pull it together. And but it is, you know, it's a really dark time, and I've always cashed the cheques and spent the money by that point, so it could be a disaster, you know, and it is a real bad point. I used to get mental blocks, and I used to have crisis of confidence, and I used to go to the gym a lot. And then I had kids, and to be honest, I just don't have time for that kind of flummery anymore. You've just got to get on with your job. I was very short of time, so I gave up being anxious, dieting, working out, gossiping, and it's freed up huge amounts of space in my life. For most writers, there's a lot more promotion than there used to be, which is very difficult actually, because when you're working at home, you're really into yourself, you wear pyjamas all day, you mooch about, putting on weight, eating buttery toast all the time, and then suddenly you realise I have to go out and promote. I've got to shed 2 stone and get a haircut and, you know, pluck my eyebrows, you know. I mean, promotion is a really lovely thing, and to be honest, I think a lot more writers would go mad without it, but it can be quite arduous, and sometimes You know, I've got children and you're flying to Texas and you get there, they haven't promoted the event, there's 4 people there, you're missing your kids, you're jet lagged, and you think, what is the point in this? It can be really disheartening. And then other times it can be fantastic and you come back very refreshed and you know, really excited about what's happened, and you have great adventures as well, and someone else is paying your flights. You know, it's lovely because you sort of realise that there are people like you all over the world, scattered all over the world, angry loners meeting, you know, having a nice evening together. It's so lovely to meet readers when you go out to do readings, and you know, people find complexities in the books that you didn't know were there, and I always pretend I meant to put them there, and then I think, right, I'll mention that the next time I do an interview and pretend that was deliberate.
All join together, we should say thank you very much.
Thanks very much.